Let's begin our first School of Art. All right, so we're in the Discord. These are our pieces for the School of Art, and I'll be able to go through them and redraw some of the things from them, which will be kind of fun to do. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. First thing I want to say is I want to keep this very, very positive as well. Like, I think it's incredible, people doing art. I love seeing the art that people do. I'm always excited to see, you know, people improve and keep working on their stuff. And I've even noticed that in the little bit of time that We Will Draw has started, in the little bit of time that, you know, people have been on the Discords and stuff. I'm not going to be doing any kind of negative critiques or anything like that. I'm going to do something that I would bring something positive to the piece, if that makes sense. Yours was the first one in the board, Tiger. I'm going to go through them in order. One of the things about when you're drawing someone with a bow and arrow, it's absolutely one of the hardest things to draw. So Hawkeye is quite difficult, even like the things like the quiver wrapping around him and stuff like that, and how you draw all those arrows, very, very difficult to do. So the thing that I would do if I'm ever drawing somebody with a bow and arrow is when you have a pose like this, okay, so this is where Hawkeye is here. So you have him like this, up to the side. But one of the things that we try to do when we're working in comics is really bring in an element of dynamic posing to the stuff that you have. You really can push dynamism with it by when the arms are spread so far apart. Look how more dynamic it gets now as I get towards the camera. So let's start with our stick figure, like I always do. And I'm gonna, instead of again having him pointing out this direction with the arm over here, I'm going to turn the camera angle around so he's pointing towards us. We'll bring in that dynamic kind of a pose to it, okay? So the elbow is this close in the foreground. I need to zoom out so you can see it all. And the hand will be here. Same with the back one. Goes further back into the background. And then we've got the hand like this, okay? So trying to bring a bit more a dynamic kind of movement to the page, because we're drawing something in 2D, and as a comic book artist, it's your job to bring as much movement as you can to the page. So remember that drawing a bow and arrow pose is one of the most difficult things to do in comics. So let's start putting in some muscles like this. Bearing in mind that the perspective is getting bigger or closer to the camera, so these objects are closer to us. So there you go. So that's what I mean. So that's just the point that I have. And this is what these things are going to be. They're going to be as simple as this. Simple little tips just to explain how I'd kind of take the piece to the next level. Okay? So well done, Tiger. It was really, really awesome. And next up, we've got Boyle. So this is a piece by Boyle, Captain America, and his question is about how do you add in shading? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to redraw the arm here, okay? So we'll start with the simple parts of the arm like this, okay? And it goes over and it folds. So I've got the shoulder, the elbow, up to the hand, okay? I would do a new layer, lightly erase what I have, and I'll draw over it. So I'm going to start drawing in the muscles now, okay? Nice and loosely. So I've got the bicep. Oops. The thighs like this, coming down here. And then the arm, I forgot to do in the cylinders, but it doesn't really matter for this something this. So if we have our light source, which is a little bit up towards the top here, okay? Each one of these then is its own area of light and shade. So I'm gonna shade in where the shadows should be here, okay? First of all, so, and by knowing these forms is how I know, that's actually wrong, I did that wrong. So that should be going down like this. A little bit more like that, okay? So I'm gonna shade in these areas of shadow. Picking out, using the same principles as if you were just shading a sphere where the shadow would go on these muscles. So, okay. Okay, so that's with one light source, but it's often always kind of good to have a second light source bounce back like this. So I'm going to put a little highlight on the other side here, and often that gives your colorist an option to have a secondary lighting color. And then I would ink over this, so that's what I'm going to do here now. So I'm going to lightly erase what we have, turn off that layer totally, and I will ink over this. Okay, so dark, so light to dark here. So if I put in some feathering like this, which is basically a thin line going to a thicker line, that's adding in a blend between the dark and the light colors when we're just using our black and white inks here. So there you go. So that's my advice for Boyle. Well done in the piece. It's awesome. And we're on to the next one. So, all right, who's up next? Who is up next? So we have Tommy. So this one, I'm actually going to give a little bit of coloring advice of the Red Hood, I believe, which is cool. Awesome piece, Tommy. So I'm going to talk about coloring here because it's quite difficult to pick out something illustration wise here because you've done the math so well. So when you are inking like this, okay, so you've actually picked out, so if I draw over here, so you have picked out, you see this line here, okay, you've left a little bit of a rim highlight like that, which is cool, and it's indicated here and it's indicated here, and these little indications are to help us tell where the different color changes can be, the different lighting setups can be as well. Okay, so, and especially when you've got something like this, which is a red hood, red mask against a dark red background and a red thing like this, we want to be able to separate them so they can be seen a lot clearer by the reader. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here, and I'm going to use this area here indicated by your ink lines to put in a highlight around the edge of the piece that will help pop it. Okay, so it will kind of disappear there. So I would have a different color, so let's say it's a blue light or something like that, with a kind of a gradient or something, and is this on a different layer? It is. Perfect. So like that. So see, straight away it becomes, it's easier then to catch, to see the piece. It's popped away from the background a little bit more, and you could possibly have a little bit of an indication of it on here as well. So all right, so next up is Ray. Ray, you said you wanted to send in another one. So Ryan, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. This is insane. This is by Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So this is like, look at the amount of work that's gone in here by Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's so good. There's A21. Thank you so much for the subscription. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so this is unbelievable. Look, there's obviously loads and loads of work. Each one of these takes so much time to do. Even critiquing it is difficult. Okay, so some of the muscles that you have here are a little round, okay? And a nice little tip is to try not to draw with ovals, because ovals are kind of not too interesting to look at. So instead of doing a muscle like you have, let's say his elbow, his shoulder, his bicep, and his forearm here. So try to give a little bit of structure to the anatomy rather than having them as ovals. And one kind of good way to do that is to have one side of it a straight line. So instead of having a muscle like this part of the arm here as two curves like this, so if you have one side of it straight and have the other side of it round, it just brings a little bit more interest to the piece that you're doing. Okay, so watch out for using ovals in your drawing. Okay, so next piece. So let's go back to Ray. Go. Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. Welcome to the stream. And by the way, everyone is allowed to submit stuff into the Discord. For this, it's totally open, so feel free to do so. Okay, Ray, who's been doing so much drawing. is basically drawing pieces along the whole time, and has a really, really lovely style. It's really, really lovely to see. So each time that I do something, I'm just going to try and pick one little thing that I think could be kind of cool to be worked on. Okay, your drawings are absolutely lovely. Like the colors that you use and everything are really, really nice. It's really, really nice and like kind of heartwarming to look at, and it's really, really great to see all the pieces that you've been doing, and you're constantly improving all of the time as well. So one thing that I think that could be added to this is maybe a consistency of line weight, if that makes sense. So like you have the hair here where the lines are quite thick for the hair, and then they're thinner for like the fingers and the arms around as well. So if I was doing this, I would make sure that the objects in the foreground would have a thicker line weight than the objects in the background. So let me just actually do that in here. So if you do this, if you bring in a thick line weight for the arms and the hands, it helps balance it out for your eyes. And then as it goes further into the background, maybe have them, you know, a little thinner as the character goes away. But your style is something, it's really, really kind of, you know, your own style. So don't ever feel like you have to do these things that I'm saying as well. These are just little things that I would kind of pick out, okay? So, yeah, looking forward to seeing more and more of your art. Okay, so next up we have Ivy. Ivy, you're still here? AJ, you can't stress how much you appreciate doing this. It's a cool thing to do and it means so much. Thank you. No problem. Yeah, thanks everyone for hanging out. This has been great. Okay, so one of the things that was I specifically remember one of the editors at Marvel saying when I was hired, they've been kind of looking at my stuff all the ways through, and like they always liked my work, but one of the things that they said was like I wasn't afraid of putting in the shadows onto a piece, so like making sure I'm able to use that black ink on top of the piece. And I think Ivy, you were saying there as well, like you weren't quite sure how to actually shade the piece as well. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm actually going to take this and ink it as if I was inking it myself, okay? Because it really does. So there's a thing when you're actually drawing in black and white in comics, is that there should be like a 70-30 balance to your piece, okay? So if I have my page here like this, okay, and if I have a balance here of 70-30, it allows your eye to know where to go to here. It's the same if it was the other way around. When you have a 70-30 balance like this, you know, your eye knows where to look, it draws it in for things like that. So it's important to have shadows in your piece, inks in your piece, okay? So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to use the folds reference and stuff from actual pieces, pictures of jeans, pictures of pantses, to know where to put the shadows on a piece, alongside as well, like the ones that you might just add specifically from. So we're going to just put a light source up here. Make sure you can put light sources underneath all of these things that pop out. So watch out already how much kind of volume it's bringing into the piece by adding these in. Okay. Everything can cast a shadow. This will really help, okay? So compare this to the original, and for some reason that 70-30 balance of black and white will really help your eyes kind of gravitate. Which one, if you glance past this in the comic, which one would you see first? You know, straight away you'd be drawn to the one with the shadows, I think, because of that balance of black and white. So it really, really helps to have them in there here sometimes. So just put one in, nice one. There you go. High praise from Toromoto. So chat pause again. Okay, cool. So next one. So thanks, Ivy. Appreciate that. So next up we've got TW Paints. Thank you for the follow.